Hey, listen to Wrestling Roundup on FreeFM, ArrowFM, and MP. As always, I'm Grady, and live on Skype we got Josh.
Hey!
Money in the Bank this past weekend, 7 matches. As always, after the premium live event, it is time for us to do our little recap show. Let's start off tag team match for the Women's Tag Team Championships. It was Rousey and Baszler, who had just unified the Women's Tag Titles and the NXT Women's Tag Titles, going up against the champs who never lost the belts, Liv Morgan and Raquel Rodriguez.
And they decided to shock us all.
They definitely did that. You know, Rousey and Baszler looked dominant heading into this.
Until Ronda caught a right hook from Shayna Baszler.
The only one who can put Rousey down was her own teammate.
And now Liv Morgan has not 1, not 2, but 3 pinfall victories against Ronda Rousey. The only person that can say that.
Yeah, it's kind of funny, right? Like, Ronda Rousey has not been pinned that many times, but it seems that quite often it's by Liv Morgan.
Yeah. I'm fine with it. I think it was just a stopgap situation. I think they were wanting to get here anyway, and so they put the titles on them while Liv was out injured, so they could still have champions around. And then they did this swerve which nobody saw coming, which is the most beautiful part of it.
Yeah.
And now we have Shayna Baszler becoming the beast that she's supposed to be, facing against and potentially having a really long feud with the baddest woman on the planet, Ronda Rousey.
Yeah, I was pretty hyped to see them team up, mainly because I thought Baszler was going to get a little bit of shine. This is one way to do that, for sure. You look at NXT Baszler, and then you look at how she's been since she's hit the main roster. They're not quite on the same level, but a one-on-one feud with Ronda Rousey is sure going to get her most of the way there.
Yeah, I mean, outside of certain people, there's not a bigger name on the roster than Ronda.
Mm-hmm. So
working with her instantly elevates you.
And what would beating her do?
Depends on how many times you beat her. As I said, there's rumors that this could be a multi-month feud. That does mean Shayna probably does beat her at least once. But the odds are not in her favor for more than once.
Come on. Shayna
her name
coming
isn't
out
Cody.
on top.
She's not Cody Rhodes.
Nah, I believe in her. I think she can pull out a win on this feud. But that's a bit of heart, not head talking there. You talked about Cody Rhodes. You mentioned him. Let's go over to his match. Dominic Mysterio, Cody Rhodes. They went for, almost 10 minutes.
It was a fine match. It was what it was. I had predicted what we would see on Monday night to happen on Saturday night, but
a little ahead of our time.
Yeah, but it was fine. Cody keeps his momentum, and in all honesty, Dominic doesn't really get hurt because he's still a heel magnet, and the crowd got to see him get his ass kicked.
Yeah, I think that's the thing with Dom, right? Like, people are still gonna boo him out of the building, win, loss, or draw. At the moment, it doesn't really matter if he's picking up wins, if he's picking up losses. He doesn't look to be being, positioned for any title shots necessarily. So it's unlike a couple other members of the Judgment Day, which we'll get to. It leaves that playing field open to experiment, to put him into feuds that he doesn't necessarily need to win, We've had quite a few lately where we're looking at a match and we're like, well, this guy's got to win because he just returned, and this guy's got to win because he needs to keep his momentum. So it's kind of fun to head into a match where, nobody is hurt in the loss. Both of them just come out looking great anyway.
Yeah.
Where to go next? Intercontinental Championship. Gunther, Matt Riddle. We built it for a little while, and it turns out it was just a stopgap.
Yeah, it was a match. That's basically how we could describe it. I think if they weren't going with the whole storyline of Matt Riddle being injured going into the match, it would have been a phenomenal match.
Mm-hmm.
But they hampered the story of the match by the overall story of the storyline. That sounds familiar. Which WrestleMania did that happen? Oh yeah, WrestleMania 25. Triple H versus Randy Orton. But it's just, it led to another surprise, which really shouldn't have been a surprise, but was, in the return of your boy.
Yeah, a lot of people thought he might have gotten himself, wrapped up into something for the show, being in the UK. Then he doesn't get booked for the show, and everyone's still sitting around going, I wonder what the status of Drew is. And then he shows up to face the guy who he lost to in a triple threat match at WrestleMania, and you're like, you know what? That makes entirely sense. Yeah. That is a perfect status for all of that.
Yeah, and you know what? I'm all for it. Give me these two. Give them 25 minutes. Let them tear SummerSlam down and burn it up. Let them go.
Yeah, it's going to be a banger between these two. Full stop.
Also, I said this during a fan comment thing I was commenting on. I called it already. Gunther will win the Royal Rumble next year.
All right. Putting it in. You love to make your calls early, and this is the one you're laying down. Gunther, Royal Rumble 2024, men's winner.
Yes.
Alrighty. Yeah, it's interesting still with Gunther and the Intercontinental Championship and the fact that he's reaching that record-setting length. Will Drew take it? Drew's a great contender to do that with. Former world champ, always looks dominant no matter where he's placed on the card. A little bit of a run back from that triple threat, but that storyline was kind of more, Drew screwing over Sheamus and both of them just wanting the shot. And now seeing it, one-on-one should be an interesting one. Guaranteed banger. But don't fully know on the outcome. The outcome could swing either way, depending on how the feud goes between now and then.
Absolutely. But yeah, it's like you said, he is approaching history if they want to go that route. It would be the second time he'd create history. But honestly, as you said, the one person that could stop it is probably Drew McIntyre. And rumors did say that he loves the direction of his characters want to be going in. That's why he resigned. So he very well could take the title from Gunther.
Just sorting by days recognized so I can find how many days away he is. From today, New Zealand date, he's what, 9 plus 54?
64 days.
There we go.
64 days.
So, not quite getting us to SummerSlam.
No, it's sometime in September, if I'm not mistaken.
63 days from now, 7th of September. Again, New Zealand time difference with the US, maybe give or take a couple days, but that early September period. So, yeah, I don't know, maybe him and Drew can stretch out a little bit longer. Dunno. We'll have to wait and see. What else we got? We still got time. Money in the Bank, we'll title that one. They're all kind of the big four matches coming up next, though, so you know what? I'm going to go to the song early. I'll go to the song early, and then when we come back, the two Money in the Bank matches, the world title match, and the Bloodline Civil War. That song is going to be, for absolutely no reason, because it hasn't been explained yet on the show, Io Sky's theme. And you're back to Wrestling Roundup on FreeFM, ArrowFM, and NPR. I'm Grady, he's Josh. We've just played Io Sky's theme. That is because she overcame Bayley, Becky Lynch, Trish Stratus, Zelina Vega, and Zoe Stark to become Miss Money in the Bank.
Congratulations! We have a Miss Money in the Bank that's held the title for the briefcase for the second longest in history.
It wasn't a hard record to break.
Nope, it just had to make it 2 days, which means she had to make it through Raw, and she did.
It was a like the match kind of played out like it was a good match, but the match kind of played out the way we expected, right? You know, Zelina Vega having some spots, but not really spending that massive time where we thought she was going to win, and then Trish, Zoe, and Becky all beating each other up. Bayley had a couple of moments where she screwed Io out of the title, and ultimately at the end, Io literally crawled over top of Bayley and used her to climb up a ladder and to grab the brass ring.
That was, I think, really interesting way to bring the ending was the literally handcuff 2 horse of the 4 horsewomen together through the ladder to neutralize them. Even though statistically that really shouldn't work because they should be able to still move the freaking ladder.
Suspend your belief a little bit.
But yeah, it was just it was fun. It was a pure fun match. Probably the best Money in the Bank ladder match for the women. Potentially.
That's a call.
Yeah. But they all had moments. And the right woman won. Bar none.
I agree. I think, you know, I was sitting and watching it with my partner and stuff, and even they were like, you know, Becky could challenge for the title without this. Trish Stratus still got to finish it off with Becky. Zoe Stark's not going to have picked up the win. Zelina wasn't going to. Io Sky makes the most sense, and I'm sure Damage Control will, you know, what's left of Damage Control will feud on their way through. Now as Io Sky looks towards a women's championship in her future. Switching over to the men's match. It opened up the show 20 odd minutes, and it saw Damian Priest become Mr. Money in the Bank after defeating Butch, LA Knight, Logan Paul, Ricochet, Santos Escobar, and Shinsuke Nakamura.
I know that it was this will be highly disagreed by the internet. But once again, I'm going to say it. The right person won.
Oh, because the internet will say LA Knight. Okay.
Yeah. And no, LA Knight is honestly, LA Knight needs to be slowly built. He needs to turn face, probably by facing Logan Paul eventually, but it looks like we're getting Ricochet versus Logan Paul first. And then maybe taking the US title from Theory and having a run with it before eventually being where he can be considered a legitimate threat for a world title.
That's the big question, right? Because I have LA Knight going after Austin Theory as well on my like bingo card predictions coming up. But when you look at all of the competitors in this match and you think, you know, would Roman Reigns versus this person make sense? Is it someone that you could believe would beat Roman Reigns or Seth Rollins? But in terms of the grandioseness or where this person can be built to. And unfortunately, the names in this match, there was very few in that case. You know, Logan Paul obviously already took on Roman Reigns. Damian Priest, with his work with the Judgment Day, has had so many high-profile matches, his work with Bad Bunny, etc. And Nakamura has been there before. He's not quite there at the moment, but he has been there before. And as you say, LA Knight just isn't quite there. If it was LA Knight with the briefcase, I'm not sitting here thinking that LA Knight's going to cash in and become World Heavyweight Champion. Will LA Knight get the United States? Maybe. World Heavyweight? No.
This is what I said if he won the briefcase, his booking would be. You remember Damian Sandow with the briefcase?
Can I try to forget it?
Yeah, it was awful. He didn't win anything, and then he lost the match when he cashed in. The only match I think he won was the match to keep his briefcase from Cody Rhodes. And that was it. It was a terrible run with it. And that's the way I saw LA Knight going. Because he's not, at this point, believable in the role of being a world champion. But that's where a run with the U.S. title, if it goes well, changes all that. Damian Priest has earned this opportunity. You mentioned the stuff he's done with Bad Bunny in both last year and this year. Everything was a ready-made storyline with him having the briefcase with Finn. And now there are hints of something drastic about to happen with Judgment Day.
Just as I'm enjoying the stable, really liking what they're doing, they're like, let's change it up a little.
Yeah, this is something I do need to point out. Since Judgment Day went to Finn Balor being the leader, so the moment that he kicked Edge out, right?
Yeah.
Who of the three, and we're not going to count Dominic here, because he came along later, who of the three have not held a championship in that time frame?
I'm going to assume that you're leading me down a path of picking Finn here.
That would be correct. Finn Balor is the only one not to. Rhea's the current women's world champion. You have, and Priest was U.S. champion at one point during Judgment Day's run. So that's where it all comes into play. I really think it could be a situation where he thinks he's going to kick him out, but instead Finn gets kicked out.
Yeah, they're definitely playing this as, Finn on one side, Damian Priest on the other side, and then Ripley and Dom will go the same way. And it'll be, which way do they end up swinging? That's the $50 million question.
Yep. And there is a certain Irish-born NXT wrestler that could join the faction in either way, no matter which way they go.
Mm-hmm.
That could end up replacing whoever gets kicked out of the group.
Yeah. Yeah, we could see JD come up. We could see other changes with the group. We could see it sticking as a smaller group. There's infinite possibilities on that with the Judgment Day. And, they already have gone through so many iterations when you think about just Edge starting out and then Edge getting one friend and then that friend getting barred from ringside, so Edge gets a second friend, and then Finn comes along, takes over. We got what we got now, and now it looks like Finn might be on his way out. The Judgment Day have been a very dynamic stable. And so definitely excited to see Damian Priest get his spotlight moment. And definitely excited to see where this takes Finn Balor and where this takes Damian Priest. Because if we jump ahead to the World Heavyweight Championship match that was later on, Seth Rollins versus Finn. Finn ultimately fails again to beat Seth Rollins. It's been a couple times now. But this time, it's because Damian Priest comes out with his little briefcase and causes a little bit of drama.
And then does the same thing on Raw during Dominic's match with Seth Rollins. That was a non-title match. So yeah, it's definitely something about to give here with that group. Finn, unfortunately, could not overcome our indomitable World Heavyweight Champion, and our World Heavyweight Champion is just holding on to his title with the skin of his teeth right now.
Well, Finn's also got himself some other things to deal with because of his recent escapades down on NXT, where he was messing around with the Seth Rollins, Bron Breakker, Carmelo Hayes group of matches. I think Judgment Day's actually been invited down to NXT, and this week they accepted the offer from Carmelo Hayes, so Finn might even be getting a little bit distracted from this World Heavyweight Championship. And we are getting quite a bit of an intermingling storyline around that as well.
I don't know. I think it might end up being Damian Priest that shows up. Remember, the Money in the Bank briefcase no longer has any rules about it, about what championship you can be cashed in on. It could, there is an outside shot. He may say, I want the NXT champion, and becomes NXT champion. Mm-hmm. It doesn't make a lot of sense, but then again, neither did cashing on the United States Championship last year make that much sense.
We have definitely had things that don't make sense when it comes to that Money in the Bank briefcase, but we'll have to see where it goes. It looks like Damian Priest is going to be that slimy heel who always threatens a cash-in. Io Sky might be a little bit more of a feud over the briefcase before we start smelling a cash-in, but we'll have to wait and see. We got time just now, like 6-7 minutes just to dedicate to it. 32-minute piece of art, Bloodline Civil War, Roman Reigns, Solo Sikoa, ultimately falling to the Usos.
Jey Uso has the accolade of being the first person to pin Roman Reigns ever in on the main roster in WWE, and the first person to do it in 3.5 years since his domination began. And they almost occurred 10 years apart from each other. It's like 3 months apart from being 10 years.
And in the exact same sequence, too.
Yeah.
It was quite poetic. This match was just full of callbacks. If we just sat here talking about all the callbacks, this would have been a 2-hour show.
Yeah. You had the low blow that was very reminiscent of the one that Roman gave him to retain the title in the first match. You had Roman put a guillotine on Jimmy, who managed to get out of it this time, instead of that being what made Jey give up and subjugate himself to the Bloodline.
Mm-hmm.
And I know last week and stuff I advocated for Jey to win the title. I think with the way this match played out, I don't think it's necessary anymore. I think, as much as I'd like to see it, I think Roman does retain at SummerSlam, but I don't think he's going to have anybody on his side after this. But I think Jimmy Uso, if they want to go solo, they're more than welcome to, because they're bona fide megastars now. And they definitely could win a world title at any point, and nobody, especially Jey Uso, would question it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that is still, to me, the end point of this run with Roman Reigns. It's going to be Roman Reigns all alone on his island of relevancy. You know, he's already lost Sami Zayn. He's already lost the Usos. Throughout this match, Solo Sikoa was given hints. Paul Heyman, you know, he's a weasel. Never count for him to stay by your side when you're not the winning team anymore. And yeah, there was one part in there where Roman Reigns, I think, failed to get it done, couldn't finish it off, and was just leaning against the ropes with his hands in his head in his hands. And Solo walks over and he's like, "We gotta finish this," and then just goes to beating them. And I don't know, there was a lot of Solo getting frustrated at Roman, you know, thinking maybe he didn't have it. So I'm sure that's going to be the next fracture we're going to see in the coming weeks on SmackDown.
Yeah, and I think it all begins with the trial of Roman Reigns on SmackDown this week, which we'll talk about next week when we. But I think we're getting to the point where it will be announced that it's Jey versus Roman for the title.
Mm-hmm.
The thing that I've still why hasn't this happened yet? Why has Brock never gotten involved? Think about it. Brock can't face Roman Reigns for the title, right?
Yeah.
Why doesn't he get involved and make sure Roman loses so he can challenge for the title again?
Don't put that into the world. Keep that up. Bottle it back up, okay?
Well, in all honesty, it's probably going to end up being Cody versus Roman again at WrestleMania.
Yeah, that's the only question here, right? It's hard because Jey just got his moment. He pinned Roman Reigns. He's got that accolade. He had that highlight. And now you ask, if he goes one-on-one, will he beat Roman? It's bigger than the title, this feud. I feel like the title almost makes it harder because you want to give the win to Jey, right? You want to have the guys who broke free from the oppressive manipulator to come out on top in the one-on-one at the very end. But it's just with the title and, Cody Rhodes and all these other little bits and pieces floating around, I just don't know if the title's going to change hands, and that's what puts the wrinkle into all of this.
Yeah.
Unless we just ignore that the title exists for another couple months and just have them have a one-on-one match, not for the title. But don't know. We'll have to wait and see.
I think a solo match, a one-on-one match, has to be for the title. It has to harken back to the original match. So I think today, versus like 4 years ago, before this whole storyline began, I think there's a 35-40% chance that Jey Uso ends up beating Roman for the title at SummerSlam.
It's a lot higher chance.
Yeah. If you had told me that 4 years ago, I would have called you crazy. And you would have deserved it too.
Yeah. Well, we'll have to wait and see how the Civil War goes and how Roman Reigns' trial goes, because that is all we have time for this week. It's been great talking to you.
Bye, B.
You can visit our Facebook page, facebook.com/wrestling R&D up, or our Twitter page, twitter.com/wrestling R&D up, or our YouTube page, youtube.com/wrestling RND up. And we will see you next week.